Hello everyone and welcome to the next country in our series, Homeopathy Around the World. I'm particularly very happy and excited today because the guests who are there coming in this episode belong to the country which is my home too. This young nation has achieved a lot in its short history. It is known as a global financial center and its success is contrary to its size. Yes, it's Singapore and I'm very happy to be taking you around looking at the homeopathic environment in Singapore today. Our guests are a group of homeopaths who belong to Singapore Center for Homeopathy. It's an organization to which I also belong. We are 6 founding members and I'm very happy to be chatting to my friends with my colleagues today. With great pleasure, I would like to welcome each and every one of them. Welcome to Homeopathy Around the World, my dear friends. Our first team member is Suman Sambamurthy. Suman, a big warm welcome to Homeopathy Around the World.
Thank you, Neeta. To be represented in a show called Homeopathy Around the World feels great. Thank you.
So, Suman, beginning straight away, to begin with, Suman, can you tell our viewers more about Singapore Center for Homeopathy and its activities?
Singapore Center for Homeopathy came about as a common goal among a few of us. That's how it came about. We set it up in 2009 with the idea of wanting to do something for classical homeopathy in this region. Historically speaking, Southeast Asia, Malaysia is probably the one with the longest presence in homeopathy. Singapore follows, but not as big as it has been in Malaysia. And the rest of Southeast Asia, you can probably say it is just beginning to be exposed to homeopathy and it's growing. So when we started out, we wanted to bring this homeopathic community together. That was our idea. We wanted to form like a fraternity where we can have a group which gives and takes in homeopathic ideals, and also something that we felt that we should have like a group which can represent the science in a more collaborated fashion within the region. While that goal is still not yet reached. In the meantime, Singapore Center for Homeopathy became facilitators for the e-learning program of Professor Vithoulkas. We have just completed our second batch, and I must say that it has been a very gratifying experience. There is something about going on the same journey with the students and seeing them being fascinated in understanding classical homeopathy. Whether it is a practicing homeopath who's the student or a new student of homeopathy, it is always the same. The effect is always the same, right? Because even for us, everybody, we always take away something new. We understand something new in every time we study homeopathy. So in that way, it has been a fantastic experience. Other than this, if you talk about our activities, we run a center, a clinic, which is run on weekends. This has been running for the past several decades, but we took up the management in around 2012. And it is the practitioners volunteer their time. It is run by a charitable mission, so it's an honorary clinic. But there is something unique about this clinic, and I'm very proud to say what is unique about the clinic, because all the practitioners in this clinic are diploma holders from IACH. It gives us a certain sense of strength with which we can practice, because we all think the same way, and we know that we are keeping a certain level in practicing and delivering classical homeopathy. that has been very important for us as a group, and we've been lucky to have practitioners all of the same thought process. We are a growing group. So as I've told you what we are doing, so we make sure that we keep the learning intact. We've been having many study groups, regular study groups, and occasionally we have organized seminars, etc. We still have dreams. We have big dreams, big ideas on what we want to do for homeopathy. And so hopefully in the future, we continue to get opportunities to do that.
That's very beautifully expressed, Suman, and I couldn't agree with you more about the fulfillment part that we are all experiencing, being on this journey and taking up all the projects and even coordinating the e-learning course and running the clinic. It's immensely gratifying, yes. And moving forward, Suman, you have been studying and you have been practicing homeopathy for over 2 decades now. So how has this influenced you as a person that you are today?
Basically, your question is about my connection with homeopathy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And if I have to say it as it is, I think we just found each other. So however romantic the idea might sound, the truth is I did not go seeking it. I got drawn into it organically. Firstly as a patient, then as a student, and then becoming a practitioner, and then getting involved in activities around homeopathy, etc. And since then, it has been no looking back. But like you say, it's 2 decades is a long time. So, and if I were to look back to see where life has led me in these 2 decades, it has led me to classical Hahnemannian homeopathy, and it led me to Professor Vithoulkas. It was 2007 when a group of us had first met Professor Vithoulkas. And one of the things that holds me there and will probably forever hold me there with his teachings is the fact that he holds on to truth and principles. And he makes sure his students get the same too. So it is like the adherence to truth by Hahnemann, Kent, and many of the masters. And Professor Vithoulkas's ideas are pretty much the same, the strength with which he holds on to these principles. It is actually, it's very attractive to me, this kind of strength. And it is, and I feel that is a strong foundation in itself. It has made me a conscientious learner. It has given me a different perspective about life, about health. And it has built in me a sense of wanting to give back in any way that I can to classical homeopathy. And in that vein, that was one of the first thoughts with which Singapore Center for Homeopathy started, that we wanted to give back in some way or the other. And I have been very fortunate to have partaken in all the activities of the center. And it has also, I've also been, had the good fortune of doing some editing work for the academy and some other work for on Materia Medica, etc. This, I would say, has kept my commitment, and it has kept me steadfast on the path. So to which I am extremely grateful. I'm very grateful for these opportunities and for having been led on this path.
That's a beautiful insight. And each one of us in the group, we are quite unique. And let me say, Suman, that this is what you've expressed just now is the anchoring factor for us. And Suman, you have a great role to play in that, being the anchor. Thank you so much for your sharing, and we will see you soon in a bit. Friends, till our next guest joins in, I would like to share with you the history of homeopathy in Singapore. Before Singapore became an independent nation in 1965, Singapore was a part of a federation of Malaya. It is estimated that around 1940, homeopathy was introduced to Malaya states by Indians who were in the British Army. Today, Singapore does have homeopaths of Malayan origin. And also, being a financial hub here, Singapore has a good number of expatriate population. So we do have practicing homeopaths who have had education in homeopathy from other countries who have set up and they have come here and set up their practice here. With this, I would now welcome Malathi Raghava, yet another team member of Singapore Center for Homeopathy. Hello, Malathi, and welcome to Homeopathy Around the World.
Hi, Neeta. Happy to be here with you.
Okay, Malathi, we have been talking about homeopathy in Singapore, and you have lived in Singapore since 1991. Going down the memory lane, can you share with us the status of homeopathy practice in Singapore from those days?
Going down the memory lane, my association with homeopathy really started when I came into contact with the homeopathic doctor, Dr. M.A. Rangachari, in 1992. I'm not sure whether there were any other homeopaths at the time, but he was considered by most of us as the pioneer of homeopathy in Singapore. So he started his own private practice and he was quite well known. But he was an altruistic man by nature. So he wanted to spread the healing art of homeopathy to everyone. I mean, like he wanted to treat people. So he decided on opening free clinics. The concept of treating people free once a week at the local Ramakrishna mission. It's a well-known mission around the world. He started the free clinic in the weekends. So he was also ably assisted by 4 or 5 homeopathic practitioners who were trained in BHMS from India. They had come to Singapore with their families, so they helped him very ably. So I started to volunteer, okay, as the non-homeopath volunteer. My job used to be at the dispensary, preparing the remedies and dispensing the remedies. So over a period of time, I got very used to all these homeopathic names, very familiar with them. And what used to my fascination was this little magic pills. There's such magic. You just give these little round sweet pills, and then the patient comes back next time all well. And that used to fascinate me a lot. Okay, and over this ran for a few years. And in the year 2000, this Dr. Rangachari wanted to spread the teaching of homeopathy. So he established the Singapore Faculty of Homeopathy. That's a school. He registered it and he went on to educate and train homeopathic students. So we, that is myself, Suman and Syamala, we were the students in the very first pioneer batch of that school. And of course, you were in the second batch, as you know it. So what happened at that time in Malaysia, the Faculty of Homeopathy Malaysia was also quite established by that time. And one Dr. Professor Nick Omar, he was the director. And he was a very good friend of Dr. Rangachari. And he used to frequently visit our faculty and talk to us and all that. That used to be very nice. And he also conducted a lot of seminars in his own country. And the Singapore Faculty of Homeopathy took their delegates and we participated there and even presented papers. And this is how the journey into homeopathy began. But then, as you know, it didn't stop there. So most of the students, including yourself from our academy, we went on to obtain successfully our diplomas from the prestigious International Academy of Classical Homeopathy, Alonissos, Greece. And our journey continues. It hasn't stopped yet. We are continuing to learn and getting fascinated every day.
What an interesting journey, Malathi. I remember you talking about preparing the remedies in the pharmacy and now being a practicing homeopath. So many years of hard work, studies, and the studies still continue. Of course, it does continue. So another question, Malathi, I would like to ask you is that have you seen the homeopathy practice changing over the years?
Yes, very much, very much. As mentioned earlier by Suman, we had registered our Singapore Center for Homeopathy in the year 2009. And with the sudden demise of our altruistic Dr. Rangachari in the year 2012, and the Singapore Center for Homeopathy had to take over and continue running of these free clinics because that was one of the beautiful things happening, and many patients were coming, and all of us who are trained, we are practicing there. So what happened was, with the additional value added education from the academy, so we were able to successfully see these patients. To our own surprise, we were seeing better results, and we were very fascinated with that. Because this value addition of levels of health, strategies of prescription, understanding the layers, these are all invaluable, and we continue to see the results in a very different way. In that way, yes, it has made a difference, and it's continuing to change. Yes.
Thank you, Malti, for taking us through the homeopathic journey in Singapore. That was very interesting. So, Malti, seeing you surely now in a bit after a short while. Since Malti had mentioned the free clinic earlier, my thought goes to one of the longest running homeopathy clinic in Singapore, which is located at the Ramakrishna Mission. Prema Thiyagarajan is yet another founding member of Singapore Center for Homeopathy and helps in managing the homeopathic clinic at Ramakrishna Mission. So let's ask Prema about it. Hello, Prema, and welcome to Homeopathy Around the World.
Hello, Neeta. Nice to see you again. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about our clinic at the Ramakrishna Mission. This is run by, like you said, the Singapore Center for Homeopathy. And we have been doing it for the last 12 years. We started in 2012. And we are a group of about 10 to 12 practitioners. And the clinic runs on 2 days. That is Saturdays in the afternoon for 3 hours and on Sundays in the morning for 3 hours. But of course, I say 3 hours, but depending on the patient, this one, we do also extend the hours a bit. So this is our... we have chosen the weekend timing because we feel it's more convenient and more, for the patients to come with their children and the families. So that is helpful for them. And we get anywhere between 40 to 45 patients, or maybe even more. On an average, it's 40 to 45, could be more on some weekends. And our team is about 10 to 12 practitioners, like I said. And then coming to the type of patients. So here, an interesting is we have a lot of worker immigrant population in Singapore. And these people avail of our services because one thing, it's free and convenient for them. And also many of them do come from India and Bangladesh, so they're aware of the homeopathic way of treatment. So we do get a lot of them for physical complaints related to the workplace, or even other mental, emotional, because they're separated from their families for long periods. And also they have some maybe other mental health issues. Then in the general population, we have both acute and chronic patients. In children, we get mostly the childhood diseases, and also there's a lot of respiratory ailments or skin diseases. That now recently we are finding that there's a little slight increase in the addiction kind of problems with regard to internet or phone or those kind of issues, gaming. And in the girls, if you see the young girls, there are menstrual problems cropping up more than before. And in young couples, it's fertility issues.
Yeah, that's nice, interesting peek into the running of the clinic. And but I was just thinking, Prema, managing a center with around 10 to 12 homeopaths must be quite complex. Is there a way you standardize the treatment process amongst the homeopaths?
Yeah, I mean, we do make certain that there is a uniformity and standardized procedures. One unique feature of our clinic is that all practitioners here are diploma holders from the International Academy of Classical Homeopathy in Alonisas. So that is one common factor. In fact, our desire to help others and like-mindedness is what brought us all together. And even now, we try to go to Alonisas every year for refresher courses. Of course, now with the COVID, we couldn't. But since we all have done it at the academy, we are able to discuss our cases and, kind of every discussion that we have is more like a continuous learning experience for all of us. So, of course, I have to highlight that we practice the classical Hahnemann way of prescribing according to George Vithoulkas' teachings. And of course, here the theories of the levels of health and the theory of continuum of disease is a very useful and a constant guide for us in our practice. And also that is again the uniform factor which helps us to kind of relate to each other's cases and discuss that. Because we get detailed information from the patients and it's all in strict confidence. But it's a continuous learning process for us. And this thing also helps us to have consistency at all levels of our practice, starting from case taking to remedy selection to actual prescribing, way of prescribing, and the follow-ups also.
Yeah, that's a very practical insight into how the clinics are running here, and the fact that we all are on the same platform and looking at the patients with the same way that our concepts are, we have learned it together and we are practicing together. Our learnings, we have also this study sessions, group sessions.
Yes.
Our discussions really help us to understand cases and we understand each other. Yes. So that cohesiveness is, of course, helping to a great extent also. Yeah. That's very nicely you've given us an insight, Prema. So what we will do is we'll meet again in a short while.
Can I just say one thing I wanted to say in conclusion, which I think is a very important fact for the Singapore clinic, is that as my previous colleague had said, that we run the Singapore e-learning sessions, the SCH, where this clinic forms a platform for the new diploma graduates to be able to practice their case taking and proceed from there. They may open their own clinics and go into private practice, but hopefully they will volunteer and we will expand to more number of days, more number of hours to serve the Singaporean population more, and also to spread homeopathy and promote it in Singapore.
That's really one added advantage that you have pointed out, Prema, that every diploma holder can avail that opportunity to be with the mission's homeopathic free clinic, and then they are attached to one of the experienced homeopaths. So
because the seniors are there to guide them, initially.
So thank you, Prema. That was a very important point. Glad you brought it up. So what we will do, we'll meet after a short while now.
Thank you, Neeta.
Our next team member is Dr. Deepa Desai, and she runs her private clinic in Singapore. So hello, Deepa. Welcome to Homeopathy Around the World.
Hi, Neeta. It's so nice to meet you at this platform. Though we are a team and we keep meeting, but it's really nice to be here on this platform. And thank you for putting us on this platform.
Yeah, thank you, Deepa. And we know that we can depend on each other always. Yes. And Deepa, I would like to ask you some practical situation questions here because you have your own private clinic here.
Right.
Yeah. So homeopathy is helping several of Singaporeans and other patients who are here in Singapore. And mostly they go to the private clinics here. So I just wanted to know, Dr. Deepa, from you, how easy is it to establish a private practice here and operate a homeopathy clinic in Singapore?
Let's put it this way. Homeopathy is kind of regulated or it comes under the traditional and complementary practices for Ministry of Singapore for the health. related to health, but it's not entire. The practices of homeopathy are not regulated in Singapore. What is regulated is the import and promotion of medicines here. Like, for example, to bring in the medicine, you have to inform Health Science Authority of Singapore, so that the medicines which are circulated in the practice inside the let's say in Singapore public, it should not have some strong heavy metals. It should not have some amount of wrong steroidal substances. These are the guidelines or rules given by the Health Science Authority of Singapore. But they do not directly, you don't need a license yet to, let's say, import or sell within Singapore. But they regulated this way. Similarly, practices of homeopathy comes under complementary and traditional medicine, but a homeopath can go register clinical practice as a business here. That comes under Accounting Corporation of Singapore. You register it's called as ACRA. So you register your business under that ACRA. In the ACRA list, it will come under non-Western practices, and you can register your business here. But for that, of course, when you are going through the registration process, you have to conduct some approvals, because it depends on under which visa you are living in Singapore. So if you are a permanent resident, if you're a Singaporean, of course, you don't need all of those approvals. But if you're not, then you definitely have to go through those approvals, which is all about, can you work here in Singapore? Because you could be under some different visa, not under work visa. So from that point of view, those approvals have to be taken. But to put it shortly, Singapore is a very, very welcoming country, and because it has huge expat population, it allows you to carry forward different kind of practices, even medical practices, and they encourage people to start new businesses. So definitely it's a very, very easy process. It's very helpful system. There are systems of, let's say, management regarding these services of submissions, approvals. All of this is very easy in Singapore.
Very true, Deepa. So once it is been, it is very clearly stated of one step after the other. It will lead, and then they will guide you towards completion. So seems like, and I agree with you that setting up a homeopathic practice in Singapore is straightforward that way. But as a practitioner, I would like to ask you: are there any challenges that you face while treating patients here in Singapore?
Well, yes, homeopathy has challenges everywhere. And I don't think it's actually homeopathy. Health has challenges everywhere. So naturally, the health practitioners also do have. The biggest challenge to put it, Neeta, I started my private practice here 17 years ago in Singapore. And when I started, there were situations where when I went in certain public forums, I realized that in a local Singaporean community, there was not much awareness about alternative system called as homeopathy, or a health system called as homeopathy. There was some awareness about the traditional Ayurveda. Of course, local population followed traditional Chinese medicines a lot, so they were very much aware of it. But not much was known about homeopathy. But there were few clinics which were running of homeopathy, and there was Dr. Rangachari, who was also running free clinics, free homeopathy clinics, which is now our endeavor. But at that point of time, when this kind of pockets of people knew about homeopathy, not much awareness was there. To when we started practicing, to make people understand what about homeopathy, what exactly homeopathic medicine is, how does it work, and what are the situations where we can apply homeopathy. All of that kind of awareness had to be created in people. But over a period of time, if I have to say, the biggest challenge today is to bring in the right homeopathic thought. By that, what I mean to say is, homeopathic medicines are practiced in various ways today in the world. And to bring Hahnemannian homeopathic practices, the way Hahnemann led his rules, the way we call classical homeopaths prescribe, to make people aware of that, to make people understand how one dose practice, one remedy at a time practice is done, is today's kind of a daunting task. You have to make patient aware of that, as well as a practitioner, you have to be very patient to accept that all sorts of practices patient has taken. So his knowledge of homeopathy comes from that. So it can be challenging, it can be frustrating, but what I have seen over a period of time in practice, that it's possible to change their thought process, make them understand. More than change, what I would like to say is to make them realize why it is prescribed in this way. And that comes from your scientific knowledge. And I always say that George Vithoulkas has always equipped us with this knowledge, where we can face this battle. It's like a sword in our hand, that it's easier if we keep trying. And that is one strong challenge. Of course, we also see the many patients are not aware that, or maybe there are misconceptions about homeopathy. A lot of misconceptions, like, oh, you cannot prescribe homeopathy in acute because it takes time to work, or homeopathic pills have steroids in them, or homeopathic case taking would take hours together. So if you are in a rush, go ahead and take Western medicine and then come back to homeopathy for chronic element, and so on. Many like that. So those kind of misconception to remove or bring in awareness is, I would say, a biggest challenge. Along with that, because it's mainstream practices are not having an open dialogue with homeopathic system yet. I won't say it's as bad when I started 17 years back. Today, we still have some doctors who understand. They're trying to understand why the patient is taking an alternative therapy. Sometimes they themselves suggest that you could go and look for alternative therapies. So I think it's getting into a complementary way of practice.
Deepa, the way you brought in these challenges, right from starting from awareness to different types of practices, all of them may not lead to the results that homeopathy should be giving. So, going back to the basics are so important, understanding that. And the misconceptions, how often we have heard about these. Are they steroids? It'll take time. All these questions keep coming again and again. And last but not the least, I love that point that you brought up, that open dialogue with the medical professionals. It's very important to understand. Unfortunately, what I've seen a little bit in, I can say that from my practice, I can say is that the cases which are most challenging or the cases which are extremely chronic are not being helped by the mainstream medicine, then they finally come to homeopathy many a times. And that's another challenge that we are seeing. And I think you'll agree with me on that also.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that sometimes it's very frustrating, but at the same time, I think it's like what has to be done has to be done. So when, how, doesn't matter.
Fortunately, we've got our levels of health to understand, and we can, this understanding comes then, what level of health the patient has come to us.
Yes.
And what kind of prognosis there is for this patient, and we can now confidently explain it to patients.
Yes, yes. That's what I said, that the tool which George Vithoulkas has given to us, or even to understand Hahnemann, I think it's made it very easy. And you're absolutely right. Today, it has become much more truthful dialogue with a patient, because a practitioner like me, I understand the prognosis. So and this is only because of levels of health. So at what level I'm seeing the patient, and how I am able to predict to them that, okay, you're in this situation, I might not be able to help you completely, but I might be able to help you 50%, gives them, it's a very reassuring thing for them, as well as that's a very honest dialogue and honest, effort on our part. They can understand that. And I think this is very, very nice to see in practice.
That was such an interesting discussion, Deepa. And what we will do is we will again meet as a group soon. And friends, now we meet Tadinada Syamala, who has been an integral part of this group. She has moved back to her home country, India, but very much still a part of Singapore Center of Homeopathy. So welcome, Syamala, to Homeopathy Around the World.
Thank you so much, Neeta.
Okay, Syamala, we have got some burning questions for you here. First thing is that, we all know that you visit International Academy of Classical Homeopathy in Alonissos, Greece. You have visited various times. And not only given a chance, you're ready to revisit it again and again.
Of course.
Yes. So what makes you go back year after year after completing your diploma in classical homeopathy from there?
Neeta, I think it's a very good question to ask, because the course is so comprehensive. It equips you to practice homeopathy with great effectiveness, and therefore gives you a lot of confidence. So it's very easy to say, why go back? But homeopathy is a very exacting science. It doesn't yield very easily. And we're very fortunate to have a teacher who has dedicated his life to the understanding and explaining of homeopathy and all its intricacies. So the pull factor to learn to do better is always there. And of course, going with a group that is so energetic and fun, and the lovely place of Alonissos is a greater pull and a great bonus too. That is why one goes to Alonissos as often as possible.
That's true, Shamla. Yeah. So every time we have gone and we have gone back and seen something with the same remedies, come back and understood, oh, wow, this is something new I've learned this time. So it's never ending. There are so many nuances about the way the treatment is in, the methodologies, the remedy pictures, and that helps us greatly in our case.
Exactly. And also the remedy phases and, what to match with the pathology of that particular person. And there's always so much to learn, and the nuances are the ones that help you perfect your art. So to keep sort of perfecting the art, you have to go and be with the teacher. So, and the teacher who gives it all to you, you have to be very fortunate to have such a teacher.
And last but not the least, you have mentioned it, and I agree 100%, is that how excited we get making our trips to Alonisos. We all go as a group, and we have a tremendously great time, and learning can be so much fun also. So, in a beautiful place like Alonisos, which has got beautiful beaches, we never know that when the break time comes, and when people are rushing towards the beaches, we are also looking forward to come back to the class and hear Professor Vithoulkas. So I'm sure you'll agree with me on that.
Absolutely.
Okay, Shamla, there is another question for you, and just for you. Amongst all of us in our group, we all know you have a great zest, longing for learning continuously. How do you keep yourself engaged in studying homeopathy? What are the things that you do? What makes you go back to learning again and again and again?
Neeta, that was very, very nice of you to say that, and I hope I live up to that opinion of others. But the first motivation to study really comes from the positive effect that classical homeopathy affords you if you follow the teachings of Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, Kent, and as taught by Professor Vithoulkas to us. So that is the first initial starting point of this motivation to study and to do better, because in the areas in which homeopathy can, really help a patient are so many. There are limitations, not to say there are none, but the area is very wide. And for you to give the maximum benefit to your patient, study is imperative. Moreover, to keep this motivation alive, the team, International Academy of Classical Homeopathy, conducts several webinars frequently, study sessions weekly, and they keep your motivation going and alive. We have to thank them very much for that. Moreover, they publish papers, the research papers, cured cases with absolute transparency, so that there is no doubt that this is how homeopathy works. So if you are dedicated, or if you come to this field and you know the capacity of homeopathy to deliver such magical results, what seem to be magical results, I think it's imperative for us to continue to study. Like I said, there are so many intricacies of the human, the uniqueness and the complexity of the human nature makes it necessary for you to keep studying. And advances in science are also being, sort of being the platform to establish homeopathy on a scientific level. So each of our experiences helps in a certain way to further the cause of homeopathy as being established on a scientific and a more widely acceptable basis. So that is, that should keep all of us, all the students, motivated to do this, because the capacity to deliver, if you practice homeopathy as is taught by by the stalwarts of homeopathy, is tremendous. We can make a considerable contribution, and study is the only way, because we have already got such a wonderful platform to take off from.
Very true, Shamla. And you know what? I love that point of yours, that you think that you have a choice. It's not a choice. It's a necessity to keep learning. with homeopathy, the vastness and the depth of the knowledge is so great that it's not a choice, but it is imperative.
Necessary, imperative, absolutely.
And then we have got our teacher who leads by example.
Exactly. Exactly.
Several hours a day. And
yeah. And he tries to keep up with the advances in physics and other areas so that he can explain homeopathy on purely scientific basis and establish it as a science that is to be accepted along with all the other so-called pure sciences as the true science. Actually, I think that makes it absolutely necessary for us to do our best to contribute to the establishment of homeopathy on the purest of scientific levels.
That was so beautifully expressed, Shamla, and I think so it's a very apt way to come towards the end of this discussion. And what we will do is we will ask our team to join right now. My dear friends, I invite you all to a significant part of this series, and we call it Toast to Homeopathy. As you all know, 3 simple, defining, and powerful words that describe the ethos of homeopathy. And what I will do is, I will request our youngest member in our team, Dr. Deepa Desai, to raise the toast for homeopathy.
Thank you, Neeta. This is to Hanneman here and to all of us. Similia similibus curenter.
Wow. So that was the tastiest sip for me. So, as you all know, friends, we all have had amazing, fulfilling journey of homeopathic studies, homeopathic work, and our travels together. And now on this virtual screen, we have toasted to homeopathy that has glued us together. And this has been such a special episode for me personally, because we as a group have started Singapore Center for Homeopathy, have been coordinators for the e-learning program for International Academy of Classical Homeopathy. We are bound together by the love for classical homeopathy. So maybe wish that more and more homeopaths stay connected like this and strengthen the homeopathy community that works towards the common goal of healthier and happier society. Thank you for joining me today. It has been such a pleasure chatting with you all here today.
Thank you, Neeta. You have made it very special for all of us. Thank you.
See you all another place, another time. Thank you once again for joining. Dear friends, this has been such an incredible and enriching journey for me to converse with such lovely people, homeopaths from around the world, and who have spoken to me from their heart. They have shared their experiences about how they are spreading the knowledge of homeopathy, spreading the benefits of homeopathy through their practice. And I can't thank them enough. Thank you, viewers, for your encouragement at all times. And thanks to Vithoulkas homeopathy community, who has shared this space with homeopathy around the world and allowed me to share their platform. With this is Neeta Kapoor signing off, and hope to see you again soon with yet another exciting project. Bye for now.